You have $100. Not 1,000. Not a surprise check that arrived at the right time. $100. The kind of money that disappears over a weekend without a trace. The kind you spend on things you cannot name by Monday. It feels too small to matter and too tight to spare, and somehow both of those things at once. This is where it starts. Not with a perfect plan or a brokerage account you spent months researching. It starts here with this amount and a decision that feels almost embarrassingly small given the size of what you are trying to build. But you make the decision anyway. You set up the automatic transfer. You pick the index fund. You do not overthink it, because overthinking is exactly what stopped you last year and the year before. You press confirm. Nothing dramatic happens. The market shifts slightly and your $100 becomes $99.70. You check it 3 times before sleep. This is how it begins, and it looks nothing like what you imagined. For the first 6 months, the account just sits there. You feed it every month like a plant you are not sure is alive. Some months it climbs, some months it falls. 6 months in, the balance reads $578. You already knew it would be around there. But 578 is not a number that changes anything. It lives quietly in an app you check less and less, because the checking stopped producing any feeling worth chasing. This is the part nobody talks about, because there is nothing dramatic to say. The first 6 months is not a story. It is a habit. And habits, before they produce results, produce only themselves. You are building the muscle of consistency in a gym where the mirrors do not show progress yet. There is a version of you that quietly disappears at this point. Not through a dramatic decision to quit, just a month where the transfer slips. Then another. Then the balance sits untouched and slowly you stop logging in. A year goes by. The habit is gone. That version of you is not weak. That version is simply human. The gap between knowing what to do and continuing when nothing visible rewards you for it is exactly where most people exit. You do not exit. 12 months in, you have deposited $1,200. The account reads $1,312. You gained $112 beyond your own contributions. You could have made that in an afternoon of overtime. It is not impressive, and you know it, and you stay anyway. But here is what actually happened in year 1 that the balance cannot show. You built a real relationship with delayed reward that most people your age have never developed. Every month, $100 that could have been a dinner became a deposit instead. Not because you are more disciplined than the person who bought the dinner, but because you made a specific decision and kept honoring it. That choice repeated 12 times is the actual foundation. You also discovered something else. Your life did not fall apart without that money. The month did not collapse. The things you feared losing it for mostly never came up. The $100 was never actually holding your budget together. It only felt like it was. Most people never test that feeling. You tested it 12 times, and the fear was wrong every single time. 26 months pass. 2,600 deposited. Account reading 3,100. The number is starting to carry some weight. Not life-changing weight, but something you can feel. And a shift happens somewhere in here. You check the account less out of anxiety and more out of curiosity. You stop watching for danger and start watching for movement. That is a psychological transition most investors take far longer to reach. Some never do. The person checking from fear and the person checking from curiosity hold the exact same fund. They will not make the same decisions when things get hard. And things get hard. The market falls 14% across 11 weeks. You watch $380 vanish. The account that read $3,100 now shows $2,670. You feel it somewhere between your chest and your stomach. You sit with it. You do not sell. You transfer the $100 on schedule because the schedule does not negotiate with market conditions. That $100 buys more shares now than it did 3 months ago. You do not celebrate this. You simply continue. 8 months later, the market recovers and your account sits at 3,900. The shares you bought during the drop are now worth more than what you paid. The discipline of the hard months compounded quietly in the background. It does this every time. Year 3 closes with 3,600 deposited and a balance of 4,750. The gap between what you put in and what you hold is widening in your favor, and it will keep widening faster and faster until the returns stop feeling like a bonus and start feeling like a second person contributing alongside you every month. That second contributor is time. Time never misses a deposit, never panics, and never sells at the bottom. 60 months in, you are 29 years old. 6,000 deposited. Balance around 8,200. Based on the 10% average annual return the broader market has historically delivered. Not a promise, but historically real. You have 2,200 more than you ever put in. You have more saved than most people in this country right now. Not because you earned more, not because life handed you a head start, but because you started one habit at one specific moment and maintained it through a year of nothing happening, through a correction that felt personal, through a stretch where you genuinely considered pausing and did not. 8,200 is not retirement. It is not financial freedom. But it is proof. Proof that you can build something from nearly nothing without a windfall or a perfect plan. Proof that the system works if you keep feeding it. Proof that you are the kind of person who keeps feeding it. That identity is worth more than the number. That identity is what carries everything forward. While the account grows, something else grows alongside it that has nothing to do with market returns. Your relationship with money changes, not because you have so much more of it, but because you are conscious of it differently. You understand the difference between spending that builds something and spending that only produces the moment. You are not depriving yourself. You went on the trip. You bought the thing. You just did it inside a structure that kept the $100 non-negotiable because it had long stopped being a sacrifice and become simply part of who you are. Your patience changes too. You have now lived through the market rising and falling. You no longer react. You observe. You understand that a red number on a random Tuesday is not information about the future. It is information about today, and today will pass. And when someone tells you they are waiting for the right moment to start investing, you do not lecture them. You remember what waiting felt like. You say something quiet and true and move on. You are 34, 120 months, 12,000 deposited, balance approximately 20,500. 8,500 more than you ever put in. In the past year alone, the portfolio returned roughly $1,700 without a single extra hour of your effort. Not from a raise, not from a side project, from shares quietly multiplying into each other across a decade. This is the part that never fully lands when you read about it in a book. It only lands when you see it inside your own account. The returns are now approaching the size of your monthly deposit. You put in $100, and the balance in an average year adds the equivalent of $140 per month on its own. Your money is making money, not at a pace that changes everything overnight, but at a pace that is real and accelerating. You are 44. 2 decades in, 24,000 deposited. Balance, approximately 76,000. You have 52,000 more than you ever contributed, more than double your total investment sitting in that gap. You did not time the market. You did not find the right stock. You had no mentor, no inheritance, no single break that shifted everything. You had $100 a month and 20 years. And compounding did what it always does when you leave it alone long enough. In year one, the market returned $112. In year 10, $1,700 in a single year. In year 20, the account generates roughly $7,000 annually. You deposit $1,200 a year, and the account quietly adds $7,000 beside it. The machine has become the primary contributor. You are almost just along for the ride, and the ride started with a transfer on a Tuesday evening in an apartment you have long since moved out of. You are 54. 36,000 deposited. Balance around 227,000. Nearly $200,000 that you never deposited, never earned at a job, never received as a gift. At this balance and this return rate, the account generates roughly $22,700 annually without touching the original amount. That is close to $1,900 a month from money that started as $100 a deposit. The machine you assembled from pocket change now produces income that approaches what many people earn working full-time. And traditional retirement is still a decade away. You are 64. 48,000 deposited across 40 years. Balance approximately $637,000. The difference between what you put in and what you have, $589,000, was not earned in the conventional sense. It grew through time and through your refusal to stop. Through every month that felt too small to matter. Every correction you held through without flinching. Every year that passed without applause or visible progress. Every Tuesday transfer that nobody congratulated you for. All of it stacked. All of it compounding. All of it here. The numbers have been real this entire time. But the numbers are not the point. The point is what you become when you decide that small and consistent beats large and eventual. Because large and eventual is the story most people are living inside, waiting for the bigger paycheck, the bonus, the moment when the amount finally feels worth starting with. That moment does not come. And if it does, the habit of waiting comes with it. The money disappears into an expanded lifestyle, and nothing is built. Small and consistent is not the consolation prize. It is the mechanism. The person's investing $100 a month, and the person intending to invest $1,000 someday arrive at 40 in completely different positions. One has decades of compounding and a permanent identity built around showing up. The other has an intention that kept getting delayed and the quiet, growing awareness that time was the one thing that could never be recovered. Time does not wait for you to feel ready. It runs on whatever you give it. You gave it $100 every month for 40 years, and it gave you back something that no windfall could purchase, no shortcut could manufacture, and no amount of waiting could ever build. The smallest version of the right decision, repeated without stopping, becomes something that looks like luck from the outside and feels like discipline from the inside. $100 every month. The machine is ready. Start now.